Welcome to the Talkback podcast. Alrighty, Mr. Ever, nice to see you.
It's good to see you too, man.
So I actually want to start with sharing, because I remember when we first met at that rehearsal at Jaws' apartment.
Yeah.
I hadn't started the podcast yet. And I remember, like, obviously, when you told me what you did for work, and I think I even mentioned it to you there, that I was like, it'd be really cool to have you on. I always remembered that. I was like, I need to make sure I have this guy on. I made sure. So
from day one, yeah.
Yeah, since before I started I don't even think I had announced it yet. Can you explain what you do? Just give a good summary of like what it is that you do for work.
Yeah. So I am a licensed professional counselor. So what that means is, I'm an LPC in the state of Texas. That's what my license is called. But I am a mental health therapist. I'm a counselor, just depending on who you ask. And what I do is I help people who are in need of mental health services.
Okay.
So if you're going through depression or anxiety, or my specialization is in trauma. So that's what I see a lot of, both in my private practice, but then also in the work I do at the hospital district. So that's what I do. I see people from all walks of life, from the ages of 6 and up, who are just having a really hard time. Like, my job is to sit with them and help them make their lives a little better when it comes to their mental health.
Yeah. So when you started that, was that something that you always felt kind of a passion for, as like growing up, obviously, and experiencing life? Was mental health always an area that you wanted to work in, or was that kind of like you realized that later on in life type of thing?
Yeah. So I think it started off more like a nurturing kind of thing. Like, that was nurtured in me. It was cultivated in me. I didn't know growing up that you can be a counselor, or that you can do that as a career. So that wasn't on the forefront of my mind. All I knew then was that I liked to talk to people, and that people felt really comfortable talking to me. So I always found myself in situations where people would gravitate towards me, and I would always hear people say, "Oh, you're so easy to talk to," or "I feel really safe with you," or "I've never opened up to anyone like I'm opening up to you." I would hear that since, I don't know, I'm 13, 14 years old, like within my own family. And then as I got older, I would hear the same in different circles. So that love and passion for holding space for people is something that developed over the years. And then when I was in high school was where I seriously considered. Actually, I wanted to be a pastor. So I started with that interest. So I went to Bible college to begin, and then eventually found my way back into counseling.
So so when you wanted to be a pastor, you weren't really thinking of going, I guess, like the mental health route. It was just, I just want to be a pastor.
Yeah, it was because I think that pastors do a lot of that. They tend to,
by default.
Yes. So a lot of what I love to do with people, I would see modeled in pastors. So I was like, oh, well, that's perfect. Like, I love God and I love people. And I guess pastoring a church is what I'm called to do. So I got really excited about that, and went to SAGU, the Southwestern Assemblies of God University in Waxahachie, Dallas kind of area, and started with a pastoral degree. And then it was around that time when I started hearing about the opportunity to do counseling. I was like, oh, well, I'm curious about that.
So like it was finding out about the whole counseling thing, that's what pulled you away from pastoring. Was there any type of like, okay, maybe like I'm not meant to be a pastor? You realize something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like was there a clear sign that you saw like, whoa, maybe I'm not supposed to be a pastor?
Yeah. Well, I I'm not gonna say I'm not still called to be a pastor. That's something honestly that um, is still there. You know, it's something that God kind of put the seed there, and it's kind of been growing. But I think the moment for me was when I moved back to Eagle Pass, because I took a break. Um, so I was in college for 2 years and then paused, came back home. And in that time, I started as a youth leader. I was like 19, 20. And I became a youth leader, and I started entering like this youth pastor role. And I was a kid too, so there was still so much that I was learning. But I found in that time that there were so many kids that needed help, and there was like depression and anxiety, and I saw the need for for something deep that I didn't always have the language to kind of communicate that or to understand it. But Holy Spirit always showed up and did the work. But there was a part of me that wanted to have the language to also go deep with them, with the kids that I was kind of doing life with. And that's where I realized, I'm like, well, I can be a pastor. And if I did counseling, then that's something that I could also add to my tool belt and give to God, and he can use that. So that's what kind of led me into the counseling realm.
So where has there been any challenge? Because I know there's some controversy when it comes to like, you know, should like Christians need this, or should Christians seek this help? When it's like, have faith in God, believe in God. For you, was that ever like did you ever have a different position on that than you do now, when you were kind of starting, I guess?
Yeah. So I think when I was starting, I felt like I had to separate the two. When I went back to college, I'm so thankful for the opportunity God gave me to go to a school that integrated faith into any degree that you were pursuing. The same was with counseling. So there is where I learned how to integrate my faith into the work that I'm doing. And there I started realizing, oh, it's not Jesus or therapy. It's like, it's Jesus and therapy. You can have both. And the reality is that even now, I don't separate the two. I completely believe wholeheartedly that God is the only one that can heal. God is the only one that can heal your depression. God is the only one who can heal your anxiety. There's nothing that I can say that's going to heal someone. But when I'm in the room with someone and we're getting deep into the work, I am fully conscious that I'm standing there, but it also, God is there with me. And whether that looks like me, because I can't openly discuss my faith with my patient or my client unless they open up to me about their faith, and then that opens up the conversation, and I love when that happens. But if it's someone who doesn't have the same beliefs that I do, I mean, I'm still praying internally. I pray for my clients in between sessions. I've even prayed for my clients in session, you know, when that conversation opens up. So there isn't a moment now when I say or think to myself that it's separate. But I know that there's so much stigma still out there. And there's a lot of Christians, a lot of believers who don't think that they need more, like they just need Jesus, or they just need to pray more. Yes, pray more, and also let people in, right? So that's kind of the message that I also share with the youth at our church a lot too. Is a lot of the time we push things away that God is trying to heal. So whether
Yeah.
that is the pain that you've been carrying for years, that causes shame, that causes guilt, that causes, all these unwanted emotions to rise up in you. Well, that doesn't feel good in your body. So the natural thing to do is to push those things away.
Yeah.
But you're pushing away things that God wants to heal. So the work that I do is I help people bring those things closer, because when you bring it close, you name it, you feel it, then that also it gives you the opportunity to invite God into that space, and actually that's where he heals, whatever is there. So he's so like woven into the process
What
of
you do.
therapy and,
Yeah.
and what I do.
So then now, like that experience you're saying with what you're finding in church, I've always wondered, do you think that church people, the things that they deal with mentally are different? You know what I mean? Like, because obviously, I mean, we hear a lot, like in the world, what people are going through, what people are experiencing. Do you think that it's a very different type of mental trauma or mental struggle that someone deals with being a Christian?
I think that, excuse me,
You're good.
there's like a piece of horchata stuck in the back of my throat.
Probably tastes good.
Yeah, it does actually. I think as human beings, we all deal with life and encounter life as human beings. And that means that it brings up emotions, it brings up feelings that are things that every human being experiences. Like, if you feel, you're human. I think that everyone has different, like everyone is in their own walk. There are people in the church, there's people outside the church, and their experiences are different. So their experiences, that's what kind of brings on, the pain or the trauma you experience. People who experience church trauma, they experience it because they go to church. If you don't go to church, you're still going to encounter things that are hard, and it's going to impact you differently. But as human beings, you get impacted, but your experiences are different.
Yeah. I get you. And do you think that, because this is something I've always been curious about, because what's on my heart a lot is how pastors' kids leave church very commonly. I think the number is half of pastors' kids end up backsliding. Could be wrong, but I think. Do you think that people are not giving the attention, or at least I guess not attention, but what's the word? Like, do you think there's not enough care for the mental things that pastors' kids deal with?
I think, are you asking can you ask your question again?
Like, if people, I guess, underestimate what they go through. You know what I mean? Like, because maybe at least what I would think is a part of why they leave church so frequently. I personally feel like it's because there's not enough attention and care put to them, in the sense that it's like, you just have to be this. You need to make sure you're good in this way. You're doing this. You're the pastor's kid. You have to. But there's not actually enough care for like them being a person too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm curious to hear like your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I'm looking at my wife in the back, who's a pastor's kid, like pumping her fists in the air. It's like, yes. Yes, I think that is a big part of what you see with pastors' kids or people in the church in general is not doing or not paying enough attention to the humanity that everyone carries. I think there's this pressure to have it all together, and to look a certain way. And when you're putting up a front and you're not being honest about your humanity, about how you're showing up to the room, that can be very isolating. And I think that's where a lot of I've always said that silence breeds distortion. So if you keep it in, if no one knows what's on the inside, then even the enemy can come and capitalize on the things that are there, and turning a molehill into a mountain. And then I think it's important to pay attention also to the fact that you are a human being. It's like you serve a God and you come and you worship God, and he is holy, and he is worthy of your praise, and you bring in your humanity into that space, and he sees that too. It's like you can't leave your humanity out of your worship to God. It's like he wants you to bring that into the room, because he cares about it.
Come as you are.
Yeah.
And do you think then that, is there like times where someone is maybe like, because I've heard things like, okay, like if you, let's say you're dealing with this type of, I don't know, depression or anxiety, sometimes the problem is like you're focusing too much on that thing. Is that real, or is that like never really the case? You know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah. I think it is real. I think whether we give it attention or not, it's there. The hard part is that when you feel something and you push it away, it doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't evaporate into the air. It's like your body holds on to that, and it gets stored away, and then something else that's uncomfortable, something else that's hard, comes along, and then again you put that away, and then it just compounds.
Yeah.
And then eventually there's this moment where you just break, because you're turning away the things that your system is trying to make you aware of. Because your emotions are like an alarm system, and that's something that I learned from a colleague who I really, really admire and respect. That's the way she teaches on emotions. It's like the things that you feel, they're like flags that go up in your nervous system. Your nervous system is what connects your brain to your whole body. So it's what lets you know that you're feeling what you're feeling. So if it's depression, or if it's sadness, or if it's anger, or anxiety, or whatever the emotion is, that's your body's way of telling you like, oh, there's something here that needs your attention. But we also don't like how those feelings feel. I don't like feeling anxious. I don't like feeling angry. I don't like feeling sad. But if I don't listen to what my body is trying to tell me, then I don't know what it is that I need in that moment. So that kind of just gets pushed to the side, and again it compounds. Yeah. And it gets bigger and bigger until it leads to a moment where you just break.
You just can't hold it in anymore. So when it comes to that, like how you're saying it can kind of build, I've always had the question, what turns a bad experience to trauma? Because, you know, like obviously two people can go through the same thing, but someone might not get traumatized to it. What turns that into trauma?
Yeah. And you make a good point. What's traumatic for one person is not always traumatic for the next person. I think that word gets tossed around a lot. Yeah. But what makes it trauma is when it kind of shocks. It's like you experience something that just shocks your nervous system, and your brain doesn't know what to do with it. And then the body, is the way God designed it, is incredible, is beautiful, is complex. But your body remembers everything. So the things that impact you in a way that your body kind of holds on to it, and you don't know what to do with it. And now anything that would happen from then on that would trigger, that experience in you, it might trigger responses that are maybe emotionally just really hard to manage. So, like, PTSD is a very real thing. I see it every day. But that's what leads to a lot of different emotional experiences that are hard for a lot of people to contain. So it can turn into, people having flashbacks, to that experience that they had, or it could turn into, panic attacks. It could turn into just really intense, like, depressive symptoms and episodes. Like, trauma
Yeah, like
really
responses.
impacts. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's so your body responds to those experiences, or to the experience that you had. Yeah.
And is when people like get trauma in their life, get traumatized, do you think that like that's kind of like, can I control, like, okay, let's say this experience happens to me, is it other choices that I make that turn that into trauma, or is that completely out of my control? Like, I'm gonna get traumatized from this no matter what I do, just because this experience happened to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think it has a lot to do with how you react to it from your own experience. Because, like, what does it mean to you? Like, what did that experience that you lived through mean to you, and why was it so painful? Because I could live the same experience, and because my life is different, it doesn't hit me the same way it hits you.
Yeah.
So your own story, your own emotional journey, your own emotional intelligence, like, all of that plays a part, I think, in the way that you're impacted
Yeah.
by trauma.
So then what can someone do throughout their life that can help them avoid being traumatized when bad experiences come? Because obviously they're going to come. People are going to deal with things, go through things. What, like, for example, what can I do? What are some practices that I can be consistent in that might help me not getting traumatized from those experiences that may come my way?
Yeah. Well, I think,
That's okay. No
I
worry.
just bumped it. I think there's so much that goes into that. I don't think it's just one simple answer.
Like, it's different for everyone, kind of?
It's different for everyone, but a lot of like, the things that are in your environment growing up have a big part to play in how you respond to hard things. So if you grew up learning how to have, like, emotional, like, resiliency, like being able to go through something, really emotionally heavy or hard, without, but being able to go through it, like, emotionally regulated, or stay emotionally regulated. I mean, that's a big thing, but that's something that you learn from the people that raised you, or from your environment. So I think parents and caregivers and the people that raise you, like, that's why they play such an important role in how we later grow up as adults and start, taking on different experiences. Like, so today, I mean, you can't really go back in time and redo all of that, but today it's really getting curious about what's there.
Yeah.
Naming your experiences, like, getting to know yourself. I think that's really important in how you're able to show up.
Yeah, I get you.
To deal with those things.
Is there like, because what you're saying, like, people learning to, like, persevere through the experiences that can come, is that sometimes, like, a good thing to do to kind of, like, just fight and push forward when you're feeling those, like, let's say I'm like, okay, let's say, like, something happens to me, and then, like, I decide, like, I go to work and I go to church and I'm just trying to, like, okay, don't cry, don't let it come out. Can that heal, or do you have to at some point let that come out? Because I guess what it come down to is like, what in your opinion, what does perseverance look like through those mental like issues that can come?
Yeah. So are you asking like if you tell yourself to set it to the side, like is that enough for that
Yeah,
to
like I guess
heal?
at
Or
times can that heal the thing? If it's just like I'm gonna try not to like get emotional because of the thing, can that heal the thing?
I'm gonna say no. I don't ever think like to push it off to the side for the sake of forgetting it or not dealing with it, like that doesn't make it go away, right? I think that what is truly healing is when you learn to turn towards the things that you're holding with compassion and curiosity, and then you invite, God into that space, into that place. Like that's where healing can actually happen. That's where healing can begin. Because for you to turn something away like that is you judging it at something that's not supposed to be there. But the reality is that it is.
Yeah.
It's there whether we want to acknowledge it or not. The important thing and the valuable thing in that moment is to see that as a part of you that needs your attention, that needs God's healing. And then with curiosity, be like, oh, you know what? This is something that's important, that's valuable. I tell people all the time, if you feel it, it has value. Your emotions have value. Your experiences have value. And I think that a lot of people have the tendency of invalidating their experiences. To validate is to acknowledge that your experience is significant and that it shouldn't be dismissed. To validate an emotion doesn't mean you have to agree with it. To validate an experience doesn't mean that you have to say, oh, that's ultimate truth. It's just the way you're experiencing something that's happening to you.
Like acknowledge that it's real,
Yeah.
the feeling? Okay.
So acknowledging like, oh, I am sad, or I am anxious, or I am feeling this thing. Why am I feeling it? Because I'm human. And I think when we allow ourselves to feel, we're honoring something that God created for us. It's like God created us with the ability to feel. To allow myself to feel it is to honor God, because He created my emotions. He created me with the ability to feel. To cast those aside is saying that you don't want something that God created, and He created it actually for your good, because your emotions are what lets you know what you're experiencing. So anger, for example. Anger is something that is an emotion that I think is really hard for a lot of people, just because it's very charged, and it feels really big, and you don't always know what to do with it, and it can lead to a lot of chaos. But the reality is that when you feel angry, your anger is letting you know that something you're experiencing doesn't feel fair. And it gives you the energy to protect yourself. So that's a good thing, right? That is, and I say this to people all the time. It's like emotions are like math. It's like 2 + 2 is always going to equal 4.
Yeah.
It's like anger is always going to signal an injustice. Sadness is always going to signal that you're losing something that's important to you. So every emotion that you feel has a purpose. But what makes it hard is that it doesn't feel good in the body. It doesn't feel good to be sad. It doesn't feel good to be angry. Loneliness is also an emotion that's really hard for people, I think, especially our age. But from any point in your life, I think loneliness is something that we experience, and then it's every time we experience it, it's hard. But loneliness is letting you know, like, hey, Ever, you're lonely, you need connection. And it gives you the energy to let people get to know you, to risk letting others get to know you. So those emotions, they don't feel good, but the purpose, the intention is to inform you. It's like, oh, this is what you're experiencing, and this is what you can learn from that experience. But if you push those emotions away, then you're not informed of what you need.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, I think I never think it's a good idea to push things off to the side, or to try to forget things, because that's not really what's going to heal what's there. What's going to heal it is turning towards it, being curious about it, and then with compassion and understanding towards yourself, allow that to be real, because both things can be true. Two things can be true at the same time. Yeah. And that goes back into the question that you asked me earlier about people who maybe feel like Jesus is enough and I don't need therapy. Jesus is enough, and therapy is helpful. Therapy it can be helpful. Therapy can be good for anyone. Anyone can benefit from it. But I think that when I look at Jesus, I think about how he was fully man, but he was also fully God.
Yeah.
And till the last moment, he didn't deny his humanity. It's like he had boundaries set up for himself because he also had human limitations. It's like I just spent all this time ministering to the people, ministering to the crowds, but now I need time alone. It's like now I need time to rest. Now I need time to spend with my Father. It's like that's Jesus saying, you know what, I'm tired. I need to go rest. Why? Because I'm human. Or to the moment where he knew that it was going to be the moment, the time to go to the cross. In that moment, I think about him and I read that passage and I think of the fear that he felt, to the point where he said, God, if it's possible, let this cup pass from me, but if not, let your will be done. It's like even in that moment, he allowed his humanity to be a part of what he was doing, of his prayer to God. But still being obedient to him, he allowed his humanity to be in that space, in that prayer. So, no, I don't think it's separate. I don't think that that we can truly be healed by separating the two, separating your humanity from your devotion to God.
Because that's a very interesting thing that I never really thought about. Does now you knowing everything you know, obviously becoming a counselor, has that changed a lot of other ways that you've seen certain Bible stories and maybe the people that the Bible are talking about? Does that come to your mind a lot? Like, whoa, this person was probably feeling this during this. Almost like if you're kind of like if they're in the room with you speaking to you about it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Do you see is there certain passages in the Bible that you see very differently now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even now we had youth service yesterday, and I was talking about
it's okay, don't worry.
And I was talking about Noah, not Noah, Jonah. And how he was running from God. And when I was reading that passage, preparing for our youth service, I was able, because of what I know about human beings, what I know about having emotions and having a human experience, I had so much compassion for Jonah. I'm like, oh, that was probably a really scary thing for him to hear from God, to go to this place where he does not want to go. And throughout the whole reading of it, I'm just thinking about his heart and all of that, because it wasn't just him being disobedient. It wasn't just him not wanting to go to the city of Nineveh and deliver the message from God. In his heart, he also didn't want them to have forgiveness from God. It's like, because he knows God's nature. God is good, God is gracious, God is forgiving, but he knows that the people in Nineveh are not good people. So that was also a hard thing that he was dealing with in that moment. And I paused there and I'm like, you know what? I get it. You know, I can understand where he's at, and it makes it so much more relatable to me, like being able to see it through that lens. It's like I'm not just reading a story about someone, about this man of God or this biblical character. Look, no, it's someone who heard the voice of God and who had an emotional experience. And that makes it so much more meaningful to me, because then I can reflect on that in my own life. It's like, oh, I hear from the Lord, and then I have an emotional experience. It's like my humanity is also there. So yes, I see that anytime I'm reading, reading about anyone in the Bible that had this encounter with God, I get curious about what their emotional experience was when they were hearing from the Lord.
Wow. So now, does that kind of happen now? Like, maybe, like, do you find yourself kind of like, I don't know what the term would be, like, whenever you're having a conversation with someone, do you kind of get those sense of like, oh, he might be dealing with this, or like and might even be talking about the thing, but you might kind of catch, okay, well, like, that might be something he was feeling or went through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think I am naturally, what's the word I'm looking for? I think a big part of that is Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like putting something on my heart. When I'm in the room with someone, I might have an idea of what that person, or even looking at them and maybe seeing their body language might cause me to feel something, but I always take that back to the Lord. I'm like, okay, God, is this something that actually is just me observing with my human eyes, or is there something spiritual here happening that that you're putting on my radar? Do I need to go pray for this person? Is there a word of wisdom that you want to give to this person? Like operating in the gifts of the Spirit. So spiritually, I think there's a lot of that. But then also, yes, I do think that there are moments where, and I think it's a gift that God has given me, is to be able to sit with someone and attune to, a need that they have. And I see it all the time in the counseling room. It's moments where someone is just going on and on, rationalizing their experience. So they're just kind of talking and talking and talking, but then there's a part of me that feels like they need something else. Like they don't just need to talk about their experience. They need to be drawn from their brain, from their rational brain, into their body. So sometimes I do ask them, hey, can we pause? Can we pause? And I know you're telling me about, that really traumatic experience that you had, and you're telling it to me like, you're telling me what you had for lunch. Like they're just talking about it without any kind of emotional weight or conviction to it. They're kind of just telling me a story. Well, sometimes I do pause because I feel like the need for a part of them is different. And then in that pause, I invite them to just kind of bring their focus back into their body. And then they connect with a part of them that they've just been kind of pushing away. And then they have this breakthrough. It's like, oh, it's like I'm connected to myself now. And that there's so much room for, and so much healing can happen in that space.
Yeah.
So in moments like that, I'm like, oh, I can see a need because of what I'm observing with my clinical eye. But there's also moments where the Holy Spirit is like, oh, this person is going through this, and this is a word I want you to share. and then it's operating in the gifts of the Spirit. But always, whether it's something I'm just feeling, something I'm observing, I always bring it back to God. And I'm like, Lord, is this something that I'm seeing, or is this something you're showing me?
And because I'm sure, obviously, in your career, you've worked with many other counselors, maybe from completely different walks of life. Do you think that in the mental health field, is it kind of controversial for you to bring it a lot to God and Christianity? Or like, is that a frowned upon thing maybe? Or how, in your experience, what vibe do you think comes with that community, the mental health community?
Yeah, great question. I think I've had a really good experience with my colleagues, both here and in Dallas, which is where I spent a lot of my adult life. I lived over there for about 10 years, and when I was over there, I joined a group practice, a group private practice of, I think it was maybe like 10 clinicians, but they were all believers. So it was a group practice that was faith-based, but served people from all walks of life. So there was so much compassion and understanding there because we all shared similar faith backgrounds. Coming here, back to Eagle Pass, getting to know the mental health community, which I'm still getting to meet a lot of, we don't have a whole lot of mental health providers here, but I'm getting to know the ones that we do have. And the ones I work with have also been really understanding. And even whenever they get a referral or they start meeting with someone who would really value, or who really values their faith and wants faith to be a part of their therapeutic process, they send those to me. And they're like, oh, we have a clinician that I think you would be, a perfect match with, and then they send them my way. So they also honor that. And I value, someone who can do that. But the opportunities I get to share about, how my faith really shapes the way that I do therapy, I jump at those opportunities. I was a part of a mental health panel, I think last week, and I had an opportunity where I was able to share how worship has been something that has helped me cope, in really hard moments too. And afterwards, people from different walks of life, different communities would come up and say, hey, I really appreciated that you shared this in that moment, because you don't really get to hear a lot of it. Because there is a stigma, I think, in the church when it comes to mental health services, when it comes to therapy, but then also in our community. I think in our culture, I think the stigma's gotten better. It's people are more open to therapy. But then you still get those people that are like, oh, I don't need to go talk to someone about my problems. Like, that's something that needs to stay in the family, or rub some dirt in it, or, you kind of have a lot of people that still have that mentality. So in any spaces where I get to kind of challenge and push back a little bit, whether it's with my faith or just, the work that I do, I love those opportunities.
Yeah. So is there, and specifically, I guess, in church, the Christian community, where do you think that stigma comes from, and how can maybe spiritual leaders like pastors, worship leaders, youth leaders, how can they do a better job at helping with that stigma?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think it's been getting better, at least in the communities that I have been a part of. But honestly, I think it's important to acknowledge, like we were talking about earlier, that our humanity comes with us everywhere we go, but we don't always have the language to understand like what we're experiencing as human beings. And I think talking about it more, having conversations like this, where we really get to find a way to combine both worlds, like those kinds of conversations are really good to have, because that's what breaks the stigma. And then I'm trying to remember your first question. What was your first question?
Where does that kind of where do you think the stigma comes from?
Oh, yeah. So I think, also I have ADHD, so I tracked with the second part of your question. I was like, but I know I forgot the first part. So backtracking, the stigma. Honestly, I think a big part of it is this idea that, you know, we shouldn't put or fix our eyes on man, like keep your eyes on Jesus, and that's enough. And that's true. And there's also that emotional, like the emotional experiences that don't get tended to, that don't get the attention that they need. So a lot of the stigma, I think, comes from relying on some people might see it as seeking mental health services as, you know, Jesus not being enough. And the reality is that he is enough, and healing is a process, you know, and we don't always know how to turn towards Jesus without pushing away the things that, you know, need to heal. So I think that the church doesn't do a very good job of teaching how to do that. And I think it's because they don't have the language to do that. So I have a lot of people that are referred to me by pastors who in the past just say, oh, I think that you would benefit from professional help. You know, people that have been equipped to go deeper, people who have a skill set that can help you, you know, get down to the root of what your problem is, but also bringing Jesus down there, you know, to that space.
What I think about a lot is like, because what comes to mind when you say that is like, you know, the Bible says a divided house falls, and, you know, confess your sins to one another. That's where healing plays in. That's what comes to my mind, because I think that if that connection or that, I guess the unity with one another wasn't important, God wouldn't talk about it in the Bible, you know? And so I myself have had definitely a very up and down journey when it comes to my thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Because, and I think that ties in a lot to maybe, again, there is a Christian stigma there. I've experienced it myself with the, you know, if you have problems, you know, look to God. He is the one that heals it. And yes, like you said, that's always true. That's never not true. God is never the one that doesn't heal you. He's always the one that heals you.
Yeah.
But that can come in the form of speaking to a brother, speaking to a sister, to a leader that you might look up to. Again, confess your sins to one another. And I do think that in my life, what's been very hard for me is maybe because of the pressure that I've dealt with, a little bit of what we spoke on before, like the pastor's kids thing, and me, I guess being an example very early on has been hard for me at times. Because again, like, I think the same way that other people forget that I'm human too, I think I was at a place where even I forgot. And I was so like, I need to make sure that I'm this way, that I'm doing this, I present myself like this. And if I'm not doing this, then I'm not doing my part. I'm not doing a good job anymore. And I think I believed that for so long that I forgot. And a lot of this that I realized came with me having conversations with my girlfriend, because I think she was really the only one in my life that gave me at least made me feel like there was a safe space for me to open up. And I'm not saying that I had a bad pastor or nothing like that. It's just that it gets complicated when when your parents and when your dad is the pastor. There's a lot of complications that can come with that. You know,
Yeah.
it makes certain things kind of I don't, I guess I don't know how to explain it. It's just iffy, kind of like I want to talk to my dad, but my dad's also my pastor.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that he's done a bad job. He hasn't. He's been available for me. Both of my parents have, but I guess that was kind of the first space I felt like I didn't have to worry about anything else, like someone viewing me differently or someone not affecting anything else.
Yeah.
A space where I can open up and not worry about what else that can bring in my life. And so I'm curious as to how can someone know whether something is maybe just a bad thing they went through or if they are traumatized.
Yeah. Well, I think either way, it's something bad that you went through, right? I think the label can help in certain ways to label it as trauma or to label it just as a bad experience. But I think what's most important is kind of just being curious about how you were impacted by it. Whether it's trauma, you come into my office and I hear your experience and diagnose you with PTSD or not, your experience was hard. Your experience was hard whether it's going to meet the diagnostic criteria for PTSD or if it's just a really hard thing that you went through. So I think the most important thing is, again, turning towards whatever part of you was affected by that experience. Turn towards it yourself, turn towards it with compassion and curiosity and see, how was I impacted by that experience? And I love that you bring up the point of being able to share that with someone else, because that's such an important part of healing, I think. Because it's not just this, vertical relationship, that we have with God. God also created us to be relational. Like, we're relational beings. We were wired for connection. We need relationship. Where we need relationship with God, we need relationship with others. And what we need or what makes those relationships, or what can make those relationships healing is having safety. Like being able to have safety to where you can express to your girlfriend or, to your dad or to your mom or to someone important your experience without fear of being judged for it or without fear of man. It's like, what are they going to think if they know this about me, or how is this going to change the things on the outside if I, let them into this part of my life. So vulnerability is hard, I think, for all of us, for a lot of people, because to be open and vulnerable in that way, and that's why it's a risk. Earlier I was talking about loneliness. Loneliness lets you know that you need connection, and then it's supposed to give you the energy to risk letting people get to know you. It's a risk because they might respond negatively, or you might experience rejection, or you might experience judgment, and that's what makes vulnerability scary for a lot of people. And that's why safety is important. I hear that you have safety with your girlfriend, that you didn't experience in other circles of your life. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because your nervous system responds to that safety that's been cultivated in that relationship. I experienced that with my wife. It's like throughout our whole time that we dated, we intentionally cultivated that together. So we learned how to have hard conversations. We learned how to create a space of non-judgment where we can share with each other honestly what we're feeling, what we're thinking, without fear of the other person, judging it as right or wrong. And to this day, that's one of the most beneficial things, most beautiful things of our marriage, is that we have that safe space where we can come together and be vulnerable and real and honest. And I think that's really valuable, because that's where we get to bring, like, the parts of us that are holding pain, or the parts of us that are holding these really bad experiences. Those do need to come out, but they will only respond to safety. Like those parts of you will only come forward when it feels safe to do so.
Yeah. And do you deal a lot with relationships?
I don't do couples counseling, or I don't do marriage counseling. But I work with a lot of individuals who are in very complicated relationships, yes.
And because it's the idea of relationships, especially in church, but in general, it's very fascinating to me because of how it feels like relationships, at least, I don't know if it's the right term, would be like stigma of relationships, or the way that society sees relationships, specifically romantic ones, are so different now than what it used to be. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, and I guess obviously you're a man, so let's speak on that. For a man, what do you think is a good way to view a man's role in a relationship? Yeah. And what's the mental attitude a man should have going into it?
Yeah. I think, so let me try to answer that in different parts. Hoping I don't forget the other ones. Also, coffee's probably not the best idea for me right now, because my mind is going like this.
I also talk a lot, so.
No, you're fine. So the man's role in a relationship. I mean, I think we're the head of our household, right? I think that we help lead, but with being submitted to God, being submitted to Christ, loving my wife like Christ loved the church. Like, I think all of that is important, is valuable. It's what I try to model, right, in our marriage, is leading from that place of submission.
Yeah.
And then loving my wife, and knowing and understanding that whatever I do impacts her, and vice versa. Even with like the whole vulnerability talk, like there are moments when Nani comes to me and she says, I need you to lead me.
Yeah.
It's like, I need you to lead me in this space. I need you to when it comes to like our walks with Christ, it's like she's there to support me, she's there to encourage me. But when it comes to those big decisions, like she turns towards me, she's like, I'm praying, are you praying? So that responsibility, I think, is a big deal when it comes to my role as a man in our marriage, is making sure that that my heart is where it needs to be with God.
Yeah.
And then leading my family from that place. So yeah, I think I played an important. I think we're very much partners in a lot of ways, and we have different roles that we play in our marriage, and I am learning through experience how important it is for me to take that role very seriously. So leading from that place of submission, I think, is
key,
is really important.
And then, because like how I touched on earlier, with the way um, the way society sees relationships has changed so much. Like you have things like open relationships, or you know, so many, I don't know, a lot of different things, though, like 50-50. Um, or like a girl can do this too, a guy can also do this, and it's like it just feels like everything's all over the place now, right? We don't really know, I guess, what an ideal relationship is anymore. It's kind of just like we can just kind of make the relationship whatever we want it to. I'm curious to hear from you about where do you think that kind of comes from, or that the whole chaotic mess of what people think relationships are now. Where do you think that comes from?
Yeah. I think it comes back to the roles of men in families. I think the way that a man shows up to his family, the way a man leads his family, plays a big role in, how people in that family grow up and mature, whether that's, kids growing, they're going to eventually be adults making their own choices. So my part to play as a man is in the relationship is to make sure that I'm doing my job in leading my family in a way that's going to create an environment for my kids to grow up. We're expecting our baby boy due September. My job is as a man, as his father, is to bring him up with godly principles, right? So that's my job. That's what I'm gonna endeavor to do. At the end of the day, he's gonna grow up. He's gonna make his choices. But the things that we instill in him as his parents is what's going to really really influence the choices that he makes when he's an adult. So I think that a big reason why there is so much like disorder when it comes to relationships and not knowing the roles that we are called to play is that I think the family unit as a whole is moving away from those biblical principles on a larger scale. And I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's a very, what I found very interesting was that there's the biggest like factor in people that end up committing crimes and doing, breaking the law, doing all these bad things, is literally not having a father in the home. That's like the biggest factor of all these things. That's what you find the most common. And so, speaking on that, I'm interested to hear what do you think are kind of the differences that a father and a mom instills in a kid? What are like what does the kid typically, what does the kid pick up from dad, and then what does a kid pick up from mom?
Yeah. I'm not a dad, but but I think the roles are different. I think with me, because I think of I'm not a dad, but I've been a son for 31 years, and I think of what I needed from my mom and what I needed from my dad growing up, and they're very different things.
Yeah.
I think from my mom, I got my love and my compassion for people, and I learned how to tune into my feelings and tune into my emotions. Like that's something I learned from my mom. And then, I mean, that's its own story because it wasn't all good.
Yeah.
Because that also caused some problems. And it was because what I needed from my dad at the time I didn't get, which was, him instilling confidence in me as a man, helping me feel confident and reassured in my own manhood. Like that's something that I needed from him. So a lot of what I heard from my dad growing up was you're too soft, or you're too sensitive, or you're too much of this. And those words really impacted me and affected the way that I view myself. So I think in my experience, from that experience, I learned that that's what a dad does. A father does for their children is he helps them feel confident and firm in their identity. And mothers nurture, mothers have that softness to them that does shape a different part of us as well.
Yeah.
So they're very two different roles. And now I think, not that dad can't, also be soft and be understanding and be emotional. But I think that, the father is also meant to really give that identity, to his children.
So I want to kind of quote something that I heard from him. His name's Patrick Bet David. He has a podcast. And he said that when it comes to raising good kids, they need three things. And he said that one of those things is the kid needs someone that he fears, someone that he respects, and someone that loves him unconditionally. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Someone he fears, and what were the other two?
Someone he fears, someone he respects, and someone that loves him unconditionally. And the way he framed it is that typically the child will have fear and respect for the father, and then they receive the unconditional love from the mother. And that's kind of the way he framed it. And those are three keys to raising a good kid. And I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I think I'm having a hard part with the fear part. I think that's, I haven't read the book and I don't know what he meant when he said that. But I don't want to lead my child with fear. Like, I don't want to use fear as a way of raising my child. I think safety is what's going to be the most beneficial for him. Because if he feels safe, then he can feel anything else and be okay.
Yeah.
So having safety in the relationship that I have with him, just like I have with my wife, like that's what's going to allow all the other feelings, all the other experiences. That's what's going to help him get through those things, is being able to have a space where he feels safe enough to experience them as he's growing up.
Yeah.
I think fear as an emotion is not something that we can avoid. Everyone feels afraid at some point. But what fear does is it signals that you're stepping outside of something that feels comfortable, something that feels familiar. Or if you're hiking through the monte and you run into a lion, like your fear is going to tell you, hey, you
Get out of
need
here.
to fight or you need to run
or
you're going to freeze, and then that's not good either. So fear plays a role as human beings, but I personally don't think that it's something that I will use to raise my children.
Yeah, because when I first heard that, what came to my mind is like how, the Bible talks about fear of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to like speak for him, say this is exactly what he meant. But when I heard that, what came to my mind, the way I interpreted it was kind of, I think, a fear of disappointing them. And I guess to elaborate specifically with the father, kind of having a fear of like, okay, I know that if I mess up, consequences are going to come. And I know that if I step out of line, life can hit me back. And I guess I'm kind of curious to hear what you think on that, in the sense of like, would it be wrong for a kid to or I guess for a dad to kind of show the kid like, hey, like you need to, because I think you can use, I guess in a sense, you use the fear as a tool to show them like, hey, like your mistakes have consequences. Mm-hmm. And so I guess, would it be wrong to fear that? Or do you think like, or is it the same way that you said before? Like, do you think that, I guess, fear can never really be a good tool to use as a parent?
As a parent, I don't think so. I think from the way that because I think of fear of God and I think reverence. Like me having reverence for God. It's like me respecting him, me acknowledging that he is holy. Like he is set apart, he is other, he is deserving of my respect. And I will revere that. I will have this respect for him. You know, I think that that's important to have in relationship with him. I think it's important to have also with our own fathers.
Yeah.
Like fear, if fear is reverence, if fear is that, then yes. If fear is instilling or capitalizing on the emotional experience of a child, like telling him like, hey, you're afraid, listen to that fear, because it's trying to tell you something. Like that's how I would use fear in the context of raising my child. It's like, hey, you're afraid and this is why you're afraid. Like your fear is letting you know, like, hey, you're about to do something that feels scary. You're about to do something that is you stepping outside of what's comfortable, and that's okay. It's like it's not, and it's not something that maybe we should be led by. It's like it's something we should be informed by. Fear, I think, I'm thinking of my own life. I'm thinking about also different stories I've heard. Fear, when fear is used more like as a form of manipulation, it's like, okay, well, I think of, the little kid at the store who's not listening to mom, and mom says, si no haces caso, este señor te va a llevar. It's like, if you don't pay attention, like this man, this stranger's going to take you away. Like fear in that sense, like using fear in that moment to teach a consequence, I don't think is going to be helpful for a child who is relying on you to learn how to deal with emotion, because that's how they learn. They learn by observing, they learn by watching, they learn by seeing you model something, and then they go and do it themselves. So if we don't know how to like regulate our own emotions, if anger is something we don't know how to deal with, then it's going to be hard for your child to learn how to deal with his own anger when it rises up. So that's why I think it's important for parents to also do their own work, because your child is watching you, and they're learning from you.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I want to get into the question portion, because I asked the Talkback audience some things that I kind of framed it like, what are some things you'd want to ask a mental health expert?
Okay.
So these are some questions I got. Obviously, answer them to the best of your ability. The first question is, how do you balance a ministry and your own mental health?
Good question. Boundaries, I think, are so important, because as much as I love serving our youth, as much as I love serving on our worship team, as much as I love doing ministry, I have limitations as a human being that sometimes I need to pay attention to. So if I'm feeling really, burnt out, or I feel like I'm spreading myself too thin, like those are signals for me to start forming boundaries and maybe saying, no to certain things, or delegating responsibilities, not setting my mental health to the side, because only when I pay attention to it and take care of myself can I actually show up more fully to serve in the position that God put me in.
Yeah, like basically if you're actually like one of the best things you can do to grow in ministry and really do it to your fullest potential is making sure that your mental health is in check. Obviously making, because that's going to help you maintain it, stay consistent and grow. That's good. I like that. The next question is, can you be on the right path with God and still deal with heavy mental health issues?
Short answer is yes. And I love this question. I think there is so much like confusion with this topic. And we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier. This idea that I can only come to God when I set this aside or when I look a certain way. But God wants all of you. Like God want the things that we want to push to the side. He wants you to bring that into the room. Like, and he wants, because that's where he heals it. It's like if we put up this wall that's keeping out all of the things that that are hurting us or that are affecting us, affecting our mental health, you're also pushing away things that God wants to heal. So it's not, and this is where I don't like the word but. I like to switch that with the word and I'll explain what I mean. It's like, it's not like, Jesus, I'm coming to you, but there's all of these things that, you know, I'm dealing with, or I'm dealing with all of these things. But then Jesus is over here. It's like, it's separating the two.
Yeah.
But the word and kind of lets you hold both. It's like, Jesus, I love you, and I'm going through something hard. Or, you know, I'm going through something hard, and Jesus, I love you. I think that's really important to acknowledge in our walks, is like, you don't have to, like, to pay attention to your mental health struggles does not mean you have to deny God, and to pay attention to God doesn't mean that you have to deny your struggles either.
Yeah.
Because it's in our weaknesses that he's made strong. So
Yeah.
it's like, heck yeah, I will boast in my weaknesses. I will boast that I need the help of Jesus.
Yeah. Praise God no matter what you're going through. Yeah. And I think that is a thing that is very common, I think, in modern times with churches, that I see a lot of the time where especially younger people, they're kind of in this space where it's like, okay, I need to wait until I get here before I can serve God. And I need to make sure that these things are in check. And what I've always liked to told people, and I heard this from a preaching, it just stuck with me. The idea that, God is not like waiting for you to be this certain level of smart or certain level of strong. He can use you right where you are. That's why they say, come as you are. I'm not saying that you can, like, obviously be going through a lot of things and now become a pastor tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that people need to learn that obviously God has grace, God has mercy, and God is all powerful. And so if you're waiting for yourself to feel a certain way or to be in a certain place in your life for God to move in you, I think that's the wrong mentality to have. I think that we need to start putting more emphasis on God can use you right now where you're at. That might not be in the form that you want it to, right? That might not be, if you have an aspiration to be a pastor, obviously God's timing is perfect, not yours. So that might not be the thing to do at the moment. But what I do think is very important is, like, give God what you can. If you're figuring things out, maybe if that's career or you know, family, friends, whatever, give God what you do have. Because ultimately, that's what's going to help you grow. Like, the people that are in high places in ministry weren't like, they weren't thrown into like, okay, you're just all of a sudden a pastor now, or you're a worship leader now. I was like, no, it was like, okay, maybe if I start playing drums only Wednesdays, eventually that can turn into me playing all the time. And then maybe that can turn into me playing conferences or whatever it is, right? It's like, For right now, look at where your life right now, and what's the next best thing that you can do, right? Not like the ultimate perfect thing, not start a church tomorrow, not, but what can is the best thing that I can do right now. And I think that that is a very important thing that I think gets kind of just forgotten in church now, you know? And again, especially with young people. So if you are hearing this, just make sure with what you have right now, just give that to God. And that God is going to use that way bigger than you can even imagine, right? Because it's not about the thing, it's about you actually giving him what you can give him. Does that make sense? Because
Yeah.
obviously God doesn't need your money. He doesn't need all these things. But when he sees you give something that might be valuable to you in the moment, he's going to turn it into something bigger. You know what I mean? So the next question is, can you be fully healed from trauma?
I think I think we'll never be fully healed on this side of eternity. That's what I believe. I think that because of the world we live in, we're going to be experiencing things constantly that are painful, and that are going to hurt us, that are going to impact us. And that's not for people who are experiencing trauma to lose hope. It's like, oh, I'm never going to heal. No, I think healing can happen. I think you can heal from your experience. I think that there are certain practices that I use in counseling, certain models of therapy. Like one is EMDR, which stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. That does beautiful work when it comes to helping people deal with their trauma. Another is internal family systems, IFS, which is also a model that I use to help people process traumatic experiences. And the purpose of those, or the goal is to take your experience that was traumatic, that your body is holding, to take that, reprocess it, and then store it away into your brain, in a way that doesn't feel as triggering, in a way that doesn't feel as heavy. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people who couldn't even think of the experience that they had without getting really emotionally activated and dysregulated after going through the therapy process and processing their experience, being able to go back to that memory and it not being something that is as painful or as emotionally activating as it was before. But the experience is there, right?
Yeah.
But your body can heal. Your mind can heal. But what I meant when I said that I don't think we'll be fully healed on this side of eternity is that it's this constant process that we're in, where we come before the Lord and he's changing and transforming and healing things in us all the time. So yes, I think that you can heal from your experience. And I think that we're always going to have a need for healing while we're on this side of eternity.
Yeah, like there's always like a lesson to be learned, a chance to grow, that type of thing. Yeah. The last question is there a lot of Christians that seek mental help?
I don't know the numbers on that. I do know that there are a lot of, like, I'm thinking of my caseload right now, and the majority of them are Christian.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the statistics, I don't know, how many Christians versus non-Christians seek therapy. I do think that it has, like, the community and the culture has a lot to do. So Christians here on the border are maybe more skeptical about getting therapy versus, someone in a bigger city like San Antonio or Dallas. Christians in bigger cities.
Yeah.
So there are Christians who seek therapy. I don't know if it's more than the non-Christians.
Man, well, I know there's a lot that people are gonna take from this. There was a lot of things that you spoke on that really changed the way I see a lot of things. Obviously, that was the intent of this. So, is there anything that you want? Any last words that you want them to know? Maybe share. I know you were talking about that you eventually wanted to start content. Maybe talk about that or anything that you'd want the people to hear or know about.
Yeah. Well, what comes to mind immediately is for all the people who maybe are on the fence when it comes to seeking therapy, getting help, and are just maybe waiting for the right moment. There's never going to be a perfect moment. I think sometimes that taking that first step is the hardest. But with all the compassion and understanding, like I get it, that process is a scary one to start. But I think getting help is something that, like investing in yourself in that way is something that's really important. So if you need help, find yourself a good therapist, and also surround yourself with people in community, and always, turn back to Jesus too. So all of that, I think, plays a big part. And I think another thing I want to mention is, I do have, I'm getting into the social media realm a little bit, trying to create content to put out there. I do have a private practice called Live Deep Counseling. So you can find me on Instagram under Live Deep Counseling, where I'm going to be posting more social media content. Things that we talked about today, other topics too. And then pretty soon, I'll be launching my therapy website, where I'll also have some resources and content. And anyone that wants to reach out to me through there for services, you're welcome to.
Yeah.
And that will go live, I'm hoping, in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome. That's crazy. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much for doing this. I tried to make it as personal as possible, because there was like a lot of things that I was just interested and curious about. So I really do hope that others, I know that they'll take a lot from this. So yeah, guys, you know where to find me we're on all social media, the Talkback podcast. Like, subscribe, leave a comment of anything else that you want to see. And that's pretty much it. We're done here, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Awesome.
for having me. Oh my gosh.